First of all, beyond the ugly PR thing, the main thing is the reason this all happened is because I blog on WordPress, as I know many of you probably do. But I'd like to first get a little bit of a sense from the audience so we can know where we should start and take this forward. I want to make it as interactive as possible. How many people, all right, let's start easy, have read a blog? All right,
That's
good
everyone,
job.
yeah.
How many people have a blog?
Nice.
Okay, how many people have a WordPress blog? How many people know what Twitter is? How many people use Twitter? All right, okay, pretty good. All right, great. So we don't have to do the what is a blog question. But what is, first of all, what is WordPress.com and what is WordPress.org?
That's a good question because it's a little confusing. So WordPress.org is a nonprofit organization. You can download the WordPress software and run it on your own servers, your own hosting setup, however you like, and you have complete 100% control over it. WordPress.com is the hosted service that you have less control over the functionality of the site, but you also have less maintenance. It's sort of a hassle-free way to blog. I like to compare it to WordPress.org is sort of like owning a house, right? You buy a house, and it's great because you can knock down the walls or paint it purple, but you still got to water the yard and keep the upkeep. And WordPress.com is kind of like an apartment. Right, it's all sort of managed for you.
And how did WordPress.org, WordPress.com come about, and what was your role in it?
Sure. So for WordPress.org, I was using some other blogging software, and I was just really frustrated with the functionality and the ease of use and everything about the software. I thought this could be better. So I started working on the WordPress.org software. A few years later, after WordPress started to get a bit more popular, we sort of wanted to do an experiment. When I just founded a company, and the sort of idea we were going to test out was if we took this software that was really popular in the open source world, but really, you know, it was high-end geeks that were using it, would it go mainstream? Would people really like using this if it was more accessible? And the answer was yes.
And what age were you? Where were you living? How was this all? How old are you now?
Inquiring minds want to know.
I'm now 25.
Okay, you're in internet years, you know, an old man.
I'm done. I'm over the hill.
But you had your start at, when did you start WordPress.org, WordPress.com?
WordPress.org started, I believe it was about 19. And then WordPress.com, I remember maybe I was 22, 21.
Okay, and so you were a college graduate at that point with a freshly minted diploma.
I wish. My parents would be much happier. I studied political science at the University of Houston for 2 years, but I ended up dropping out to take a job in San Francisco, which seemed like, you know, the land of milk and honey and technology.
But doing political science, what does that have to do with computers?
It probably prepares you a lot better for open source than anything else. It was more, I was doing computers as my hobby and my sort of passion, and I thought, well, I don't need to go to school for this. And I took one course, and it was really bad. It was all Microsoft stuff, and not like that, not like that. Okay, maybe a little like that. And so I thought, well, I'd study something that just had more permanence in the world, and so that ended up being mostly philosophy and political science courses.
And then you just decided one day to drop out.
Well, I had visited San Francisco just to see some friends and everything like that, and it completely blew me away. One, it was the middle of summer, so it was like 100 degrees in Houston. What's that in Celsius?
Yeah, it's hot.
A lot.
Freaking hot. And very humid. And so I go to San Francisco, and you step outside, it's like there's free air conditioning, right, everywhere. And two, this was, I guess, 2003 or 2004. I did sort of a tour. I went to Yahoo and Google and CNET and all these great places and was just blown away, especially by Google, actually, just how innovative this is. And it seemed like the place I would want to spend the rest of my life. So when I went back to Houston, I started getting some calls from these folks, and the most interesting offer was actually from CNET, because as a media company, they had no interest in the intellectual property of WordPress. So they were like, oh yeah, work on this all you like, it can be open source, you don't have to stop, anything like that. And so I ended up working for CNET for a year.
CNET being an online news service, which I guess most people are familiar with here. Yes, a lot of nodding heads. Okay. So you're in CNET, working for the man.
Yeah.
And you want to start WordPress.com. How does that?
So CNET is an interesting company because they were one of the first sort of larger internet companies, and they have every awesome domain name in the world. They have like computer.com, news.com, online.com, all these. Online was one of the ones that wasn't used, and I was like, well, could we use this to do an online blogging service? You know, everyone could have their name. You know, tomisonline.com. No one bought it. They're like, we don't think this blogging thing is going anywhere. We don't like blogs. You know, various things around different parts of the company. Some parts were ultra clued in, and some parts didn't think blogs were going to be sort of a part of the mainstream. And so that's when I sort of knew. I was like, well, I got to do this. This is like something I absolutely have to do. So
you quit your job?
Yeah.
And went off to launch it. How did you find funding? How did that work?
Well, so the company ended up being called Automatic, and it's spelled AUTOMATTIC.
This is Matt Mullenweg, get it?
The standard egotistical founder puts his name in everything. So the Automatic was founded, and actually it was bootstrapped, one with my credit card, and two with some we did some partnerships with hosting companies, and actually with Yahoo as well. That sort of were the initial money. And then about, I think 4 or 5 months later, ended up raising a first round of venture capital.
Okay, and then you went out and you bought a big building to host, to put the company in, and tell us a little bit about the company.
We did some awesome .com parties. And,
Blew it all in 3 weeks.
Sorry, guys. I was 21. What did you expect? It was kind of interesting. Most of that, we did a second round of funding about 2 years later, and almost all the initial round of funding was still there. Automatic is organized a lot like an open source project. So we're virtual. We didn't have any office space with our name on the door until a few months ago. And the employees of Automatic are spread out all over the world. The first employee was in Cork, Ireland. Number 2 was in Austin, Texas. Number 3 was in Dallas, Texas, and then moved to Petaluma, and I was in San Francisco. I actually was not the first employee, funnily enough. I was like number 3 or 4. And so we just coordinated online. You know, we almost never talked, but we chatted a lot using like IRC. We obviously blogged to each other, and it was just a natural extension of how we'd all been working on WordPress before. We started developing the software that would become the company, which was WordPress.com, and also our anti-spam service called Akismet. Which is just like you get email spam, people get spam on their blogs, and it's a service to stop that.